I found my name on a hospital payment plan I never signed, and the monthly amount keeps going down. That should be good news, right? The documents arrived on Friday. I'd spent the last 3 days obsessively checking my bank account, my email, my credit report. Everything seemed normal except for that one withdrawal. I'd called Mercy General twice more, getting different representatives each time, and they all confirmed the same information. Patient admission, August 9th. Discharge September 15th. Outstanding balance. Payment plan active. I'd even driven by Mercy General on my lunch break Thursday. It was real enough. A sprawling complex on the east side of town, newer construction, lots of glass and steel. I'd never been inside. I was sure of it. The envelope was thick, official. I opened it standing at my mailbox in the lobby of my apartment building. Chen was getting her mail too, and she smiled at me. I tried to smile back, but my face felt weird, like I'd forgotten how the muscles worked. Inside were photocopies, admission forms, consent for treatment, a payment plan agreement. My signature was on every page. I took them upstairs to my apartment and spread them out on my kitchen table. The handwriting looked like mine. The signature was perfect. I have this specific way I do the capital R. But I didn't remember signing these. I didn't remember any of this. The admission form listed my complaint as acute dissociative episode with memory impairment. The attending physician was someone named Dr. Sarah Chen. The treatment I called the hospital again. This time I asked specifically for a doctor. "I'm sorry, sir, but Dr. Chen doesn't take calls directly," the receptionist said. "I can have her nurse call you back." "When?" "Within 24 to 48 hours. I left my number. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I called in sick to work and drove to Mercy General. The lobby was bright and clean, all white tile and potted plants. There was a directory by the elevator. I scanned it for Dr. Sarah Chen. Department of Neurology, 5th floor. I took the elevator up. My heart was doing this thing where it would beat normally for a while and then suddenly hammer 3 or 4 times, hard, like it was trying to get my attention. The 5th floor was quieter than the lobby. Pale blue walls, fluorescent lights, that hospital smell of antiseptic and recycled air. I found the neurology department and approached the desk. A young guy in scrubs looked up from his computer. "I need to speak with Dr. Chen," I said. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I was a patient here recently and I have some questions about my treatment." He looked at me for a moment, then typed something. "Name? Daniel Reeves." More typing. His eyes moved across the screen. Then he looked at me again and something in his expression changed. Not much, just a slight tightening around his eyes. "Dr. Chen is with a patient right now. If you'd like to wait, I can see if she has time to speak with you." I waited. There were chairs along the wall, upholstered in that industrial gray fabric that's designed to hide stains. I sat and watched people come and go. Nurses, doctors, patients in wheelchairs. Normal hospital stuff. But I kept thinking about that look the guy at the desk had given me. After about 20 minutes, a woman in a white coat emerged from one of the rooms down the hall. She was maybe 45, dark hair pulled back, glasses. She spoke briefly with the guy at the desk, and he pointed at me. She walked over. "Mr. Reeves?" I stood up. "Dr. Chen?" "Yes, I understand you have some questions about your recent stay with us." "I don't remember being here," I said, "at all, but I have all these documents with my signature, and there's this payment plan that's taking money from my account, and I just need to understand what happened." She studied my face for a moment. "Why don't we step into my office?" Her office was small, cluttered with files and medical journals. She gestured for me to sit and closed the door. Then she sat behind her desk and folded her hands. "Mr. Reeves, you were admitted on August 9th. After being brought in by ambulance, you were found unconscious in your apartment by your building manager. Do you remember that?" "No." "When you regained consciousness, you were extremely confused and unable to recall the previous several days. We ran a full neurological workup, MRI, EEG, blood work. Everything came back normal." "So what was wrong with me?" "We weren't entirely sure. Your symptoms were consistent with transient global amnesia, but the duration was unusual. You remained in our care for observation and cognitive therapy. For over a month? Your case was complex. We wanted to ensure you were stable before discharge." I felt like I was listening to someone describe a stranger's life. "And you agreed to all this? Signed myself up for a payment plan?" "You were competent to make your own medical decisions. The payment plan was your choice. Many patients prefer to spread the cost over time rather than pay a lump sum. But I don't remember any of it." Dr. Chen leaned back in her chair. "Mr. Reeves, memory impairment was your primary symptom. It's not surprising that you don't recall your stay here. In fact, it's consistent with your diagnosis. So what do I do now?" "Continue with the payment plan. Follow up with your primary care physician. Monitor for any recurring symptoms." She paused. "Have you experienced any other memory issues since your discharge?" I thought about it. "No, I don't think so." "Good, that's a positive sign." She stood, signaling the end of our conversation. "If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to call." I left feeling worse than when I'd arrived. Nothing she'd said was unreasonable, but it all felt wrong. Like a story that made sense on the surface, but had something rotten underneath. That night, I tried to reconstruct August 9th. I checked my work calendar. I'd been logged in that day. Normal hours. I checked my credit card statements. Groceries on August 8th. Gas on August 10th. Nothing unusual. I called my building manager, a guy named Tom, who mostly kept to himself. "Tom, this is going to sound weird, but did you call an ambulance for me back in August?" "What? No, man. Why?" "The hospital says you found me unconscious in my apartment." Long pause. "I think you got the wrong guy. I didn't find anybody unconscious." I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat on my couch in the dark and tried to figure out what the hell was happening. The second payment came out on November 1st. $342 this time. The amount had gone down. That should have been good news. I started keeping a journal. Nothing fancy, just a spiral. But the weird thing was I didn't feel like I was having memory problems. I remembered everything just fine. My childhood, my job, my friends. I remembered what I had for breakfast that morning and what I'd watched on TV last night. Everything except those 37 days I'd supposedly spent at Mercy General. The third payment came out on December 1st. $298. I called the hospital's billing department again. Different rep this time, a guy named Marcus. "I'm calling about my payment plan," I said. "The amount keeps changing." "Yes, sir, that's normal for a graduated payment plan. The balance decreases as you pay, so the monthly amount adjusts accordingly. But it's decreasing too fast. I've only paid about $1,000 total, but my balance should still be over $8,000. I heard typing. Let me check your account. Okay, I'm showing your current balance at $7,906. Your next payment will be $251. The math didn't work. I'd paid $378, then $342, then $298. That was $1,018. The balance should be $8,394, not $7,906. There's a discrepancy, I said. I'm not seeing one, sir. The system calculates automatically based on your payment history and accrued interest. What's the interest rate? More typing? I'm showing. That's odd. There's no interest on your account. It's listed as a 0% payment plan. Then how is the balance decreasing faster than my payments? I'm not sure, sir. It might be a billing adjustment or insurance payment. Would you like me to request an itemized statement? Yes, please. The itemized statement arrived a week later. I opened it at my kitchen table, which had become my command center for this whole mess. I had files now, printouts of bank statements, copies of the hospital documents, my journal. The statement was 8 pages long. Most of it was standard stuff: room charges, doctor fees, lab work, medications. But on page 6, there was a section labeled Cognitive Asset Restructuring. The charges were listed by date, starting from my supposed admission on August 9th and continuing through my discharge on September 15th. Each entry had a code, a description, and a dollar amount. TAR 001. Initial assessment 1,200. CAR 002. Lexical extraction 890. CAR 003. Lexical extraction $890. CAR 004. Procedural memory optimization 1,100. KR 5. Recognition protocol adjustment 950. The list went on. 23 separate charges, all under this cognitive asset restructuring heading. Total $18,340. But my original balance was only $9,412. I called the billing department again. Got a woman named Lisa this time. I have a question about these charges, I said. Cognitive asset restructuring. What is that? One moment, sir. Typing sounds. That would be a specialized treatment protocol. I don't have detailed information about the medical specifics, but I can transfer you to patient services if you'd like more information. Yes, please. Hold music. 3 minutes of soft jazz. Then a new voice, male, smooth, and professional. Patient services, this is David. How can I help you today? I explained again. The charges, the weird descriptions, the fact that the total didn't match my balance. Ah, yes, David said. The Cognitive Asset Restructuring Program. That's one of our more innovative treatment protocols. Essentially, we've restructured your cognitive assets to better serve your account balance. That phrase. Restructured your cognitive assets. It hit me wrong, like a word you know is spelled right, but looks weird anyway. What does that mean? I asked. Well, Mr. Reeves, traditional payment plans can be quite burdensome for patients. Our CAR program offers an alternative. Instead of pure monetary payments, we accept a combination of financial and cognitive contributions. It reduces your overall financial burden while still satisfying your obligation to the hospital. My mouth had gone dry. cognitive contributions? Yes, small, carefully calibrated extractions of redundant or underutilized cognitive resources. Nothing that impacts your daily functioning, of course. We're very careful about that. But it allows us to offer you a much more manageable payment structure. You're taking my memories? Not memories per se. More like excess capacity, language patterns you rarely use, procedural knowledge that's been superseded by newer learning, recognition data that's no longer relevant. Think of it as a cognitive decluttering service. I hung up. My hands were shaking again, harder this time. That night I sat down to write in my journal and couldn't remember the word for the thing you write with. I sat there, pen in hand. That was the word, pen. I knew that. But I'd been trying to write, I called the hospital today, and I couldn't remember how to spell hospital. I knew what it was. The building where sick people go. I could picture it, but the word wouldn't come. I tried to sound it out. Pit? Al? That looked wrong. Hospital? Hospital? I finally looked it up on my phone. Hospital. Of course, I'd known that. I'd always known that. But for about 2 minutes, I hadn't. The fourth payment came out on January 1st. $204. I was at my desk at work when I got the bank notification. I stared at my computer screen at the spreadsheet I'd been working on and realized I couldn't remember how to use the formula I'd been using every day for the past 6 years. The lookup function, I knew I needed it. I knew what it did. But the syntax I had to Google it. A database administrator who'd been using Excel since college. That afternoon, I called Mercy General and asked for David in patient services. They transferred me around for 10 minutes before someone finally said, "Yo, there's no David in patient services, sir. Can someone else help you?" I spoke with him 2 weeks ago about the Cognitive Asset Restructuring Program. I'm not familiar with that program, sir. Let me check with my supervisor. She put me on hold. 5 minutes. Then a new voice came on the line. "Mr. Reeves, this is Sandra, the patient services manager. I understand you're asking about a KIAR program?" Yes, I spoke with someone named David about it. He explained that the hospital was taking cognitive contributions as part of my payment plan. "Sir, I've been the manager here for 8 years, and we don't have any program by that name. We also don't have any employee named David in this department. But I talked to him. He explained everything. I believe you think you did, Mr. Reeves. But according to our call logs, the last time you contacted patient services was back in October, and you spoke with Jennifer about your payment plan. There's no record of any call in December." I checked my phone. She was right. No call to Mercy General on the date I remembered talking to David. But I remembered it. I remembered his voice, the things he'd said. "We've restructured your cognitive assets to better serve your account balance. Mr. Reeves, are you still there?" "I need to cancel the payment plan," I said. "Of course, I can help you with that. You'll need to pay the remaining balance in full, which is currently $7,218. We accept $7,218? It was $7,906 last month. Let me verify. Yes, sir, your current balance is $7,218. Would you like to proceed with the cancellation?" "What happens if I just stop paying?" A pause. "Well, sir, your account would go to collections. It would impact your credit and..." Another pause, longer this time. "And you'd be in breach of your treatment contract." "What does that mean?" "I'm not entirely sure, sir. That's a question for the medical staff. But I can tell you that all our payment plans include a clause about treatment continuity. If you stop paying, you might be subject to, let me see, accelerated asset reallocation to satisfy outstanding obligations. In English, please. I don't know, sir. I just process payments. I didn't cancel. I was too scared of what accelerated asset reallocation might mean. The fifth payment came out on February 1st, $162. By then, I was having trouble reading. Not all the time, just sometimes. I'd be looking at a page, and the letters would seem to rearrange themselves. Words I'd known my whole life would suddenly look foreign. I'd have to sound them out like a kid learning to read. I went to see my primary care doctor, a woman named Dr. Patel, who I'd been seeing for years. I told her everything. The hospital stay I didn't remember, the payment plan, the cognitive problems. She ordered tests, MRI, EEG, blood work. Same as Mercy General had supposedly done. Everything came back normal. I don't see any physical cause for your symptoms, Dr. Patel said. Have you been under a lot of stress lately? Wouldn't you be? I said. She referred me to a neurologist. Not Dr. Chen. Someone at a different hospital. I had an appointment scheduled for March 15th, but February was when things got really bad. I forgot how to tie my shoes. I was getting ready for work, running late, and I sat on the edge of my bed with my shoe in my hand and just couldn't remember. I knew you were supposed to make loops, or maybe you didn't make loops, maybe you did something else, but my hands wouldn't do it. I stared at the laces for 5 minutes before I finally just tucked them into the sides of my shoes and went to work like that. At work, I couldn't remember my password. I'd been using the same password for 2 years, changing just the number at the end every 90 days like IT required. But when I sat down at my computer that morning, it was gone. I had to call the help desk and get it reset. The woman on the phone was patient. It happens to everyone, she said. Don't worry about it. But it wasn't just the password. By lunchtime, I'd forgotten how to use the coffee maker in the break room. I stood in front of it, holding an empty mug, knowing I wanted coffee, but unable to figure out which buttons to push, or in what order. My coworker Janet found me there. You okay, Dan? Yeah, I said. Just tired. She made the coffee for me. I watched her do it, memorizing the steps, terrified that I'd forget again tomorrow. The sixth payment came out on March 1st, $114. I'd stopped checking my bank account by then. What was the point? The money was going to come out whether I watched it or not. The balance was going to decrease. And with each payment, I was going to lose something else. I called Mercy General one more time. I don't know what I expected. Maybe I just needed to hear someone acknowledge what was happening to me. The receptionist who answered sounded exactly like me. Not similar, not kind of like me, exactly like me. My voice, my inflection, even the slight rasp I get when I'm tired. Mercy General Medical Center, how may I direct your call? I hung up immediately. Sat there staring at my phone. Called back. Different voice this time. An older woman, professional, and distant. Mercy General Medical Center, how may I direct your call? I need to speak with someone about my account. Daniel Reeves. One moment, please. Hold music, then another voice, also mine. Mr. Reeves, this is Daniel in Patient Services. How can I help you today? Who is this? I whispered. I'm Daniel, sir, from Patient Services. I'm showing you have an outstanding balance of $6,891. Would you like to discuss your payment options? You sound like me. I apologize if there's any confusion, sir. How can I assist you today? Stop taking my... I didn't know what word to use. Memories? Thoughts? Self? Stop taking whatever you're taking. Sir, I'm not sure I understand. Are you referring to your payment plan? Yes, the cognitive, the things you're taking from me. Mr. Reeves, I don't have any information about cognitive treatments. I only handle billing. If you have medical questions, I'd be happy to transfer you to... I hung up again. That night, I couldn't remember my mother's name. I was looking at a photo of her on my bookshelf. She died 4 years ago, cancer, and I knew who she was. I could remember her laugh, the way she used to make pancakes on Sunday mornings, the last conversation we'd had before she went into hospice. But her name was gone. I looked through old photos, hoping to find it written somewhere. Nothing. I checked my contacts. Mom. Just Mom. I searched my email. Hi, Dan, her messages began. Never her name. It came back to me around 2 a.m. Susan. My mother's name was Susan. I wrote it down in my journal immediately, terrified I'd lose it again. The 7th payment came out on April 1st. $63. I'd stopped going to work by then. I'd used up all my sick days and was on unpaid leave. My boss had been understanding at first. Take the time you need, Dan. But I could hear the concern in her voice during our last call. The unspoken question, are you coming back? I didn't know. Some days I could barely remember what I did for a living. I spent most of my time in my apartment reading my journal, trying to hold on to myself. But even the journal was becoming difficult. My handwriting had started to deteriorate. Words were misspelled. Sentences trailed off into nothing. I'd stopped answering the phone, stopped checking email. The only thing I did consistently was check my bank account, watching the balance in my checking account decrease and the balance on my hospital bill decrease even faster. On April 10th, I got a letter from Mercy General, hand-delivered, slipped under my door. I found it when I woke up around noon. Dear Mr. Reeves, it began, we are pleased to inform you that your account balance has been reduced to $6,203. At your current payment rate, your obligation will be fully satisfied by August 9th of this year. We appreciate your participation in our innovative payment program and your commitment to fulfilling your treatment obligations. August 9th, exactly 1 year after my supposed admission. I read the letter 3 times before I noticed the signature at the bottom. Daniel Reeves, Director of Cognitive Asset Management. My name, my signature. The same looping R I'd seen on all those hospital documents. I looked at my hand, tried to remember how to make that loop. Couldn't. The 8th payment came out on May 1st. $28. By then I was having trouble with faces. I'd see people in the hallway of my apartment building and know I should recognize them, but couldn't. Chen from the mailboxes. Tom, the building manager who swore he'd never called an ambulance for me. Janet from work, who stopped by once to check on me and stood in my doorway looking hurt when I asked who she was. It's me, Dan, Janet. We've worked together for 5 years. Right, I said. Sorry, I'm just tired. She left. I watched her walk away and tried to memorize her face, knowing I'd forget it again soon. I started sleeping most of the day. It was easier than being awake, trying to navigate a world that was becoming increasingly unfamiliar. In my dreams, I was still myself, still whole. I could remember everything: my mother's name, how to tie my shoes, the VLOOKUP formula, the faces of everyone I'd ever known. Waking up was like dying a little bit each time. The 9th payment came out on June 1st, $11. I barely noticed. I was sitting on my couch, staring at the TV, which was on, but I couldn't follow what was happening. People were talking, moving around, but I couldn't connect it to any kind of narrative. It was just sounds and colors. My phone rang. I stared at it, couldn't remember how to answer it. Eventually it stopped. It rang again an hour later. This time I managed to swipe the screen. Hello? My voice sounded strange, like someone else was using it. Mr. Reeves, this is Dr. Chen from Mercy General. We need you to come in for a follow-up appointment. I don't... Who? Dr. Sarah Chen. I treated you last year. We need to see you. It's important. I don't know how to... We're sending someone to pick you up. They'll be there in 20 minutes. The call ended. I sat holding the phone, trying to remember what we'd just talked about. 20 minutes later, or maybe it was longer, I couldn't tell. There was a knock on my door. I opened it. A woman in scrubs stood there, smiling. Mr. Reeves, I'm here to take you to your appointment. I followed her. What else was I going to do? The drive to Mercy General was a blur. I sat in the passenger seat of her car and watched the world slide past the window. Nothing looked familiar. Everything looked familiar. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. At the hospital, she led me through the bright lobby, into an elevator, up to the 5th floor. The neurology department. Chen's office. Chen was waiting. She looked exactly like I remembered, which was strange because I couldn't remember what anyone else looked like anymore. Thank you for coming, Mr. Reeves, she said. Please, sit down. I sat. The chair was comfortable. The office was exactly as I remembered it from my visit back in October. Or had that been November? Time was getting slippery. I need to explain something to you, Dr. Chen said, and I need you to try to understand even though it's going to be difficult. I nodded, or I think I did. I couldn't really feel my body anymore. You were admitted to this hospital on August 9th of last year. That part was true, but you weren't brought in by ambulance and Tom didn't find you unconscious. Then how? You drove yourself here. You were experiencing severe chest pain and difficulty breathing. You thought you were having a heart attack. I tried to remember. Couldn't. You weren't having a heart attack. You were having a massive stroke. By the time you reached the emergency room, you'd lost consciousness. We stabilized you, but the damage was extensive. You were in a coma, Mr. Reeves. You've been in a coma for the past 10 months. The words didn't make sense. I was here. I was awake. I was talking to her. Everything you've experienced since August 9th. Your apartment, your job, the phone calls, the payments. None of it has been real. It's been happening inside your mind while your body has been here, in room 512, on life support. Room 512. I tried to picture it. Couldn't. Your family made the decision to withdraw life support. That was finalized 3 weeks ago. What you've been experiencing as payments Is your brain systematically shutting down as we reduce the support systems keeping you alive? Each payment is another neural pathway going dark. First, language centers. That's why you started having trouble with words. Then procedural memory, tying shoes, using familiar tools. Then facial recognition. Then episodic memory. The balance decreasing isn't debt being paid off. It's your remaining time, your remaining consciousness. I wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she was wrong, but I couldn't find the words, couldn't remember how to form them. The payment plan was your mind's way of making sense of what was happening, turning a biological process into something transactional, something with rules and structure. The hospital, the bills, the customer service calls, all of it was a framework your brain constructed to explain why you were losing pieces of yourself. But I called, I managed to say. I talked to people. You talked to yourself. Every voice on the phone, every person you encountered, they were all you. Your mind fragmenting, creating conversations with different aspects of yourself. That's why the representative sounded like you. That's why you found your own name on documents. You've been alone in here the whole time, Daniel. Just you and the parts of yourself that are shutting down one by one. The room was getting darker. Or maybe my vision was going, I couldn't tell. The final payment is scheduled for August 9th, exactly 1 year after your admission. When that payment processes, when the balance reaches zero, the last of the life support will be withdrawn. You'll experience it as settling your debt, fulfilling your obligation. But really, it's just the end. How long? I whispered. 2 months? Maybe less? It's hard to predict exactly. Some neural pathways are more resilient than others. I sat there, trying to process this, trying to hold on to it, but even as she spoke, I could feel the information slipping away, like water through my fingers. I'm telling you this now because you deserve to know. Because there's still enough of you left to understand. In a few more weeks, there won't be. You'll forget this conversation. You'll forget me. You'll forget everything except the payments, the decreasing balance, the slow countdown to zero. Why? I asked. It was the only question I could form. Why are we doing this? Because your family asked us to. Because keeping you on life support indefinitely isn't living, it's just existing. Because the person you were, the database administrator, the son, the friend, that person is already gone. What's left is just biological processes and electrical impulses, creating the illusion of consciousness. She stood up. The nurse will take you back now, back to your apartment, your life, your routine. You'll forget we had this conversation. You'll go back to checking your bank account, watching the payments come out, waiting for the balance to reach zero. And on August 9th, you'll make that final payment and you'll feel completion, like you finally settled your debt. But I'll be dead. You've been dying since August 9th of last year, Daniel. We're just making it official. The nurse came in, the same woman who'd brought me here. She smiled and took my arm gently. Ready to go home, Mr. Reeves? I stood up, followed her out of the office, down the hall, into the elevator, out through the bright lobby, into her car. During the drive, I forgot most of what Dr. Chen had told me. By the time I got back to my apartment, I only remembered that I'd been to the hospital for a follow-up appointment. Something about my treatment. Something about payments. I checked my bank account. The balance in my checking account had decreased by $11. The hospital balance was now $6,142. Then I couldn't remember what I'd wanted to write next, so I put the journal away. The 10th payment came out on July 1st. $4. I spent most of that month sleeping. When I was awake, I sat by the window and watched the street below. Cars went by. People walked past. Sometimes I recognized the shapes as familiar, but I couldn't remember what they were called or what they were for. My phone rang sometimes. I didn't answer it. I'd forgotten how. The journal sat on my kitchen table, unopened. I'd forgotten what it was for. Sometimes I'd pick it up and flip through the pages, looking at the handwriting that got progressively worse, the words that became harder to read, the sentences that trailed off into scribbles. On the last page, in handwriting that was barely legible, someone had written, "My name is Daniel Reeves. I am in a coma. This is not real. This is not real. This is not real." I didn't understand what it meant. I put the journal back down. The 11th payment came out on August 1st. $1. By then, I was barely aware of anything. Time had lost all meaning. I existed in a kind of gray fog, neither awake nor asleep, neither alive nor dead. Just waiting. On August 9th, I woke up, or thought I did, to find a letter slipped under my door. "Dear Mr. Reeves," it read, "your account balance is now 0. Your obligation has been fulfilled. Thank you for your participation in our program. We've restructured your cognitive assets to better serve your account balance." I read the letter, didn't understand it, read it again. Then I felt something, a kind of, like a weight I'd been carrying had suddenly been lifted, like I'd been holding my breath for a very long time and could finally exhale. Relief. I walked to the window and looked out at the street. The sun was shining. It was a beautiful day. I thought I should do something. Go somewhere. But I couldn't remember where or why. So I just stood there, watching the light, feeling the relief wash over me. The debt was paid, everything was settled, everything was. In room 512 of Mercy General Medical Center, the machines surrounding Daniel Reeves's bed went quiet. The monitors flatlined. The ventilator stopped its rhythmic breathing. A nurse came in, checked the equipment, made a "rest easy," she whispered, and turned off the machines one by one. In the billing department 3 floors below, an automated system processed a final entry on account number 8734192. Balance, 0. Status, closed. Payment plan, completed. The account was archived. The file was closed. The debt was settled. And Daniel Reeves, who had been paying off his obligation one neural pathway at a time, finally reached a balance of 0.